Welcome back. Today we got on Riley Smith, runner at Florida. We are so honored to have him on the show today and talk about his journey to become the runner that he is today.
Happy to be here, guys.
Nice. Sam, take it off.
All right, sure. We'll just kick things off like at the beginning. How'd you get your start in running? Like where did it kind of begin?
So basically, I was just a soccer player, and I played soccer pretty competitively since I was like 4, 5, and all the way up until freshman year when I ended up quitting because I just basically just kind of started not being in love with the sport like I used to be. So one of my assets when I was playing soccer was that I was pretty quick. So I just talked to some guys on the track team at my school, and it wasn't even like Buchholz back then. Our team wasn't that great. It was just like a couple guys. Like we basically had exactly enough cross country runners to even like run meets. So we started out pretty slow, but yeah, once I got on the team, and then we recruited some other guys, and we got the team rolling. We started to pick up pretty fast.
Well, that's actually incredible because I've looked at your high school, which I've seen like just generally like how big is it, by the way? How big is Bugles?
Ooh, I think like 2,500. I don't know. It's like a
2,500.
pretty decently sized school.
But I mean, to not have enough cross country runners to even make a varsity team is crazy at a school like that. That's
Yeah, we had like 8 or 9 guys, I think, but it wasn't always that way because we used to have the head coach at UF actually, like Mouse Hallway. He used to be a coach at Buholtz before we went there,
oh
and the
no,
team was actually pretty good back then. I'm pretty sure we won a team title in cross country states, but it was just like went through kind of like a down years.
y'all definitely revitalized the program because there's some studs that are coming up and obviously graduating as well. So that's awesome. How do you feel that experience of almost taking a non-existent program to being somewhat of a successful thing and being a part of that? How do you think that has affected your mindset going through becoming a better runner?
Yeah, it's definitely cool to like kind of be the start, and when I'm now that I'm graduating, I'm kind of like passing on the torch. And I mean, at this point we have probably like 30 kids on the team, and we have like our varsity team's pretty strong. I think our top five will all be under 16 this year in cross. And I wasn't like the first person to kind of have a good career from Buchholz, and that like that after that down phase, the guy that was a year older than me, Emerson, who's also at UF now, he was pretty good, and he transferred over, I think, like sophomore or junior year. So he was already pretty decent, but then we had a coaching change, so he came with the new coach, and he was like the original start of like rebuilding the team. And then me and my teammate Evan, who is also going to UF now, kind of just like took it from there.
Yeah. Um, so quick question. A lot of times in running in general, like there's our actual weight age and there's like our training age. So like, someone might be uh like for example, I have a friend who's about to be a junior in high school who's like leagues better than me. But he's younger than me, but he's been training longer than me. And so we talk about like our training age versus our actual age. And so at what point did you like start taking training like seriously? At what point were you like, all right, it's time to get like serious and do like the really hard stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, even like bringing it back to like when I was younger and playing soccer, I would still like every once in a while my mom would like go tell me to run a 5K race like around the neighborhood, and like turkey trots and stuff. So I mean, I that's like my only training leading up to high school was just like 3 or 4 like turkey trots like throughout the years. And then once I got into freshman year, our coach was pretty low mileage, and we didn't I didn't do really anything outside of practice. So I'd like practice like 3 times a week, and like I'd basically just show up. Like I was working at practice, but outside of practice I was still just like a kid. And then sophomore year, I started to take things seriously outside of running and like doing the gym and eating better and stuff like that. And then junior year is when I really kicked it in and started, training every day and putting my mileage up every season, and like really locking in. So, you know, I feel like I really started running the summer before junior year, but I did have some reps in by the time I like really started taking everything seriously.
Gotcha.
So along with that, you mentioned the weight room. You seem to be very like involved with it, with lifting and how it helps your running in general. What are your opinions on that in general?
So yeah, I think that lifting weights and stuff like that and doing strength work is like the most underrated thing for runners because and there's like a thing where cross country runners are always like skinny and not strong and like people say that, but it's like not they say it's oh because it's because of my sport that I can't be strong like I'm just a runner, but like the most of the guys that say that haven't actually really gone to the gym and if you start like lifting heavy and doing like resistance work and all that stuff, you're like not only are you gonna like put a little bit more muscle on and you're gonna like feel stronger, you're gonna be able to sprint better. I think that's a lot of the reason why a lot of the kids complain they don't have kicks like at the end of races or they don't feel like they have enough speed. Like there's a kid on my team right now who's younger and hasn't really gotten a ton of reps in the gym yet and I'm pretty sure he can run his 400 PR 4 and 800 just because like his speed like isn't to the point yet where he can like really change gears. But once you like get stronger, that's why like at the end of the races I can kind of just like shift it when I choose to at like 400 300 to go. There's like a pretty big difference on my leg speed. And I think a lot of that is because I'm lifting pretty heavy in the gym pretty consistently.
Yeah, I'd say that's a huge thing that a lot of runners lack, is consistent work in the gym, and I think it's a huge aspect. I think something that it was definitely something that I used to blame like my lack of I'm not a speed guy. Like I really don't have kick. Like I try and I've gotten a little better at it over the years, but like in general, I'm not someone that considers myself to like have any sort of speed. But like this summer, I've taken like what I know about like training weights and whatnot. And so far for like the past 8 weeks, I've done just like my own weight room routine that like it has like a lot of plyometrics and a lot of like heavy lifting and a lot of stuff that's gonna like strengthen my Achilles and my calves. Um how do you see do you factor in plyometrics and stuff like that into your weight room routine?
Yeah, I mean a little bit. The thing is, so many people ask me for my weight routine, and like I honestly couldn't tell you most of the time because I just I've been going to the same trainer and since I was like in middle school, and I've just been lifting with him every day. So I have a really good relationship with the owner of my local athlete gym, Numa Speed, and he basically gives me all my workouts. Every time I go, it's like something new. And he does mix in a lot of plyometric stuff or like the biggest thing that I think I do that a lot of people don't is like focusing on balance while lifting, like flipping the Bosu balls upside down and then lifting on top of them and doing RDLs and stuff, and like training your body to like hold up in uncomfortable positions and be able to produce power from like places that you wouldn't normally have a lot of power from. So yeah, plyometrics definitely I do a bit of that, like jump squats, stuff like that, jumping on the boxes. And I think it all helps. Literally anything you do in the gym like that is going to benefit you in some way.
Do you think having a trainer like kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off it almost like I feel like a lot of the reason that people like or runners don't go to the gym is because they're like they don't want to or like they're just like they're tired, they don't really feel like it. Do you think having a trainer like kind of keeps you accountable and like almost takes like the extra work it takes to like set up a weight room routine and whatnot? Like, do you think taking that out of it has a big factor in like how you're able to perform in the gym?
Yeah, I think it's definitely helpful. And like I've gotten to the point now with my trainer where I can just text him and be like, "Yo, I'm coming in today at this time," like every single morning that I'm going. And then he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'll be there." And then he'll like just once I get there, he'll just write something up on the board for me. And he also sometimes is my cameraman for my TikToks. But it definitely makes it easier to know that someone with more knowledge than you in the space is telling you what to do. I mean, it's really similar to just having a track coach. Like if you're training on your own when you're a freshman in high school, you're not going to know what to do. You're always going to feel like you're not going to feel confident in your training. You're going to be like confused. You're not going to know how fit you are. It's the same thing for lifting. Like when my trainer knows what he's doing, he's going to tell me what to do, and I trust that what he's telling me is going to get me stronger, and it has. So I don't really have to think about a lot of things. I just go in there and do my job.
Gotcha.
For sure. That definitely takes a lot of the pressure off. And just like in general with anything in running, it makes like if you can make it easier on yourself, why not? So
Yeah.
So I've been hearing a lot of triumphs and high points in your running career, but I really want to know what low points in your career and setbacks and stuff like that has transformed you into a better runner and made you learn hard, difficult lessons.
Yeah, so I think the like probably the lowest part of my career was it started right in my postseason for my was it sophomore? I'm trying to remember. For sophomore year, yeah, I started really locking in, and that was when I wanted to really attack cross country and get better at cross. And I started like running up my mileage, working harder, and I ended up literally like a couple weeks before season getting mono, and then right as I was like starting to recover from mono, I got strep, and then strep like slingshotted mono like even further. So then I was basically sick with like two different things for like multiple months, and I really didn't run at all for the whole cross country season. So it really sucked, just kind of like sitting around and not doing much. And then the only races that I was able to run, which I probably shouldn't have ran just because I was still pretty sick. I was just like so pissed off that I couldn't do anything that I raced. I only ran like 17 like 52 or 17:55, I think was one of them. I don't even know. But that was definitely the most like annoying thing I went through. And then once I started feeling better and training again, I had just like a whole new sense of motivation because I knew that like my times on mile split didn't really like show what kind of runner I was. So I was trying to prove to myself and a lot of other people that I'm not a 17:50 runner. And it was just I got sick and now I'm coming back.
yeah. I think that that change and people will look at that jump between your junior year and your senior year in cross country specifically where like you said you really only ran a couple races because you were sick and you had had this like great build over the summer and you weren't really able to show anything for it at least in cross country. It definitely showed in the outdoor season because you went what 409 in the 1600 junior year.
Yeah, it was 412 for the full mile. It like the 1600 split was kind of wonky. Like they kept like changing it and stuff. So the 412 as a 412 mile is kind of what I go by. But it was kind of cool because it was like 49.99 and my goal was to break 410 for the season. So
That's pretty
it
hype.
was pretty cool. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
But yeah, so like people will see that and be like, how do you do it? But you're clearly like, okay, well, I did it the first time. I got sick. Uh, and then clearly you did, and then you had another great build going into your senior year. So I think it honestly, and then people are where's this guy coming from? What's he doing? Like, how's he getting so good so fast? But in reality, it's really just the idea that you were able to, especially once you got over your sickness dial in the aerobic training and you were and your body's clearly able to adapt to it quickly and that just connected with the talent you already had and in turn is like a perfect storm to create an indoor national champion uh for a guy that like otherwise people would not have probably seen at winning nationals indoors and so that's a huge accomplishment but and clearly people are going to be like, "What's going on?" But to you, it's like I've been doing this. Like this is what was going to happen.
Yeah, I definitely like once I started doing because that summer was when I really started doing the aerobic training, like I said, and I felt a huge difference like almost immediately. And I've kind of found that like I have just like it's something that just makes me soak in the training like so well, and like I just get fit so quickly after coming back from stuff, and it just like it doesn't really slow it hasn't slowed down at all. Like when I started cross country season, I was literally in 16:10 shape for my senior year, and by the time I got to the state meet, I already had ran 14:57, and just like it didn't slow down from there. Even after I did that, like like it just kept going up, and like I never really saw any diminishing returns for like until I got hurt. So I think I've definitely like always had something that just makes me soak in the aerobic training really well, a bunch of tempo stuff. And it's really just been my whole like high school career has just been trying to get enough consecutive training in without getting hurt or getting sick to just kind of unleash. And that's what happened my senior year. I finally got, I guess it was a little bit of luck, a little bit of me doing everything right outside of running. It finally hit for a short period of time because now I'm injured again. But now I've started to run, and I definitely think my leg's stronger. So I this is my first like consistent week of running. I'll probably hit like just over 25. So I'm definitely back on track. But yeah, every year the goal is just to stay uninjured for as long as possible. And I know everything else is just gonna fall into place.
What was the injury you dealt with specifically this spring? I know it was something to do with your hip. Is that right?
Yeah, so I had IT band syndrome right when I switched to cross training. It was because of IT band syndrome, and I was pretty like proactive about it. Like the moment I felt it, I immediately cut out running. Except I think what I did was that I started cross training too hard, like too quickly. So like I switched from running every day to no running, hard elliptical sessions, hard swimming, and my body just probably didn't know what was going on. And then I got bursitis in my iliacus muscle, like right around my femoral head, which is just a hip injury, hip inflammation. They said that when I first injured it, it was kind of a strain, but by the time I got to the doctor, it was just inflammation that was left basically because I took a lot of time off and got a cortisone shot. And now I'm doing PT to strengthen it back up.
Gotcha. And with the well, you seem to be like pretty like you seem to include cross training in your regimen a lot. It like just in general, like even outside of that. And you know, with everything surrounding the way that cross training is being approached as a way to gain fitness at this point, like I mean, we see it with more than just like the best example we'll say is another Florida Gator, Parker Valby.
Yeah.
Is like the prime example of like you don't need to run, or at least some people don't need to run as much in order to like gain a lot of fitness. And so as we see that start to be more like prominent and more uh like more of a common thing in the running world to supplement a lot of cross training in our running, how do you do it, and how do you kind of do it to add to your running, and how do you plan to do it in the future?
Yeah, so my mentality with cross training and so my high school coaches too is that the heart doesn't discriminate like depending on what you're doing. So as long as you're getting your heart rate up and consistently holding your heart rate at like a certain level, whatever that heart rate level is, you're basically doing that sort of training as it would be running. So I have a naturally high heart rate, so like 150s is like an easy pace for me. So as long as I'm doing 60 minutes on the elliptical, it's basically the same thing as doing like an 8 or 9 mile run. And really the only thing that like you could go in my mind, you could basically go full cross train as long as you're getting enough running in for your legs to be like accustomed to pounding of like your joints and your knees and stuff. Like as long as your body is okay with the pressure of hitting the ground without running a lot, then like almost everything else you can do cross training. And when I am injured, obviously I'm doing a lot, but as I'm easing back into running, I'm basically like I started out the season with a lot of cross training, and then as I start running more, I'm just bringing the cross training down and bringing the running up to basically like probably about here, where I'm doing like a double on easy days, where I'll do like a 30-minute elliptical or a swim workout at night, and not too much cross training because I do like how it feels to run a lot, and I can handle it. Some people like Parker, there's like they've just repeatedly have injuries and like when you run a lot. So if that keeps happening to me and I keep getting injured, that may be something I can do. But I think I'll be okay because I think my injury wasn't really from running too many miles. It was just from pretty much racing too hard. And I think after I ran 8:39 at FSU, I raised my mileage like 5 miles a week.
Oh,
And it was all part of the plan. Like basically, I lowered my workouts to like I didn't do a lot of workouts for a couple weeks after that race, but I raised my mileage up because there was a base phase to peak at outdoor natties, and I think my body just freaked out after that and shut down, and then that's why I got the IT band thing.
Yeah,
But the um the cross training is definitely something that literally everyone should do. And you should like get accustomed to swimming and elliptical right when you start running, in my opinion.
for sure. 8:39, is that still a top 10 time all time in high school? Is that still stand?
Not anymore. Arcadia like went
That
crazy
is,
this year.
yeah.
So when I ran it, I was the 10th person to break 840. And then I think now like 19th in high school history.
That
It might be even lower after Brooks, but I don't know.
and that's true. That was only your second attempt ever, right? Because you ran
Yeah,
48 at uh what race?
it was Bulls, yeah, in Jacksonville.
Got it.
So yeah,
That's
that was my second 32.
that's insane. Do you like what do we think about the 3200? What do you like it or not really?
I like it. I think I wasn't really confident in it at Bulls when I first ran it because also that race was absolutely stinking, dude. It was like it got delayed like 2 full hours, and then after that they had to literally like push the water off the track. And I don't even like I forget what happened. I think the race before us was ran in lane two because the water was still on the track. And then we got on and it was like 100% humidity, literally everyone had warmed up like 3 times already,
Oh, that's
and
the
it was just like a mess. But the second race at FSU, I was a little bit more confident. The weather was a little bit better, and yeah, I think my kick really serves me well in longer races, just because I'm like even farther away from that point of like no return with your anaerobic system. So at the end of the 32, even though like it hurts aerobically, like I my leg speed is gonna carry me a lot faster than some like the distance guys that I'm racing.
So you seem like a very researched guy, knowing what you're doing all the time and having specific backing behind it. Before a race, do you ever have any superstitions that you really don't have a reason behind, but you follow?
Honestly, not that much. I mean, I do what everyone else does. I like look up pretty much everybody in the race, figure out their strengths, and stuff like that. And then I'll probably the night before, I'll just like sit in the bathroom watching like motivational TikToks and lock in, like watching like UFC fighters knock people out, like stuff like that, and then
that's
just get
how
me hyped up.
Yep.
And
yeah,
then
that'll do it.
yeah, at Millrose, that was probably one of my favorite tactical races in like from what I've done, because I basically me and my coach looked up everybody the night before, and we saw that there was like a bunch of guys that are in 49 and 400, that have run 152 already, guys that are like had leg speed, but you could tell that once they got to the mile that they didn't quite carry over perfectly. Like they're still fast, like 411, 412, 410 guys. But I could tell that if I took them out quick and then like made a push early and then settled into my own rhythm, that a lot of them would be scared off the pace and probably like couldn't maintain it. So I plan to take the race out in 60 and then go down to 62s so I could still have a kick because I knew I could run. I was confident that I was in 402 shape in that race, but I didn't want to run 402 in that race. I wanted to save it and just get the win at Millrose. So I slid back down to 62s. So I knew that I'd have a kick on the last lap and I could beat um, Byron and TJ, who I like planned on them being the only two guys that would go with the pace, and it pretty much played out exactly how I thought. So I'm pretty proud of that race.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had a somewhat similar experience. My state championship for the 3200. It was me and a guy. We're pretty much both right around like 930, but he's like a 51 400 guy. He's run like 150 156 in the 800. And like I don't have speed like I split a 4x8 earlier that year. I split like 206. So like I was like, okay, I got to take it out of him like early. So like we got through the mile and then I ended up passing him after the mile mark, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like try and put ground on him, and like it like this is like I basically reasoned with myself, and I was like this is my move. Like I either win it right now or I don't. And sure enough, he ended up closing in like a 57 and kicking me down in the last 100 meters. But
Dang.
just goes to show that like sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. But clearly for you, it went your way in a very important race in Milrose. So
Yeah, I think for distance guys like that were going in the 32, it's like the notorious spot for them to make a push for it is like at the mile mark they'll just start surging or like gradually picking it up. Here, I'm gonna drop some info real quick. If like the best way to beat me in a 32 is to not just gradually ramp up the pace. Like if you're running against a guy with leg speed, you want to take the leg speed away and just trust your grit and your aerobic capabilities. So like if I was racing me in a 32, I would make sure that I was on pace for basically my PR for the first mile, and then just at the mile mark, just book it and literally try to make a gap in that 400. And that I think that fifth lap should be probably like your second hardest lap of the whole race, besides the last lap. Because if you want to take the leg speed out of guys like me who are just going to be sitting there waiting, like you gotta make a like a very strong surge to either scare them or just take it out of their legs. And they my teammate that now Johnny, who almost beat me at states, it was really close. He did that at regionals, and it might have been yeah, it was regionals. I literally dropped back like 10 seconds, and I barely caught him at the end. But he would like we went slow for the first mile, and then we went around a turn, and then there was a downhill right after the turn, and then right as he turned around the turn at like after the mile mark, he just started sprinting down the hill. And by the time I even realized, I was already like 3 seconds behind him, and it absolutely like took me out. And at the end of the race, like the last 800, I made up like 6 seconds just because I really didn't want to lose. But like if you're a distance guy, like you got to make the middle surges to get people like me off your back.
I hope no one out there in the NCAA is taking notes for when they find you
Yeah.
in a 3K final indoors someday because
They're gonna be looking up the Aber Bros YouTube channel, scouting you out
yeah,
for
right.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're gonna have some notes. But no, that's definitely interesting.
Yeah, the only reason I'm dropping that is because I'm confident that I'm going to be able to match that anyways. So, you can try it, but I think as a general thing, that's definitely a good strategy. But I'm pretty confident that I'd still be able to stick with it because I do think that um, my aerobic is actually better than my speed in a way.
Oh, sorry, did you have a question?
Nope.
Oh, sorry.
I still ask
What?
question.
Oh, I thought sorry, he tapped me. I thought he had a question.
Give me the signal.
Yeah, right. Okay. Let's see. So, being that the Olympic trials are going on, right? There's some pretty fast times being run, some really good runners out there, having a good time. Uh, do you have any idols in the sport that are showing out at the Olympic trials right now, or that are not showing out at the Olympic trials?
Honestly, I like I don't really look up to like individuals as people in the sport. Like I look up to their fitness almost like because I basically judge almost everyone off of their fitness when I'm racing against people or like just people in the sport in general. So like I'm not like really like thinking about like who they are, but like because I want to be there pretty bad and I know that I can. So I don't really like think that these people that are like running fast right now are really like any different than me. They're just me 5, 6 years ago. So I definitely like look up to where they've gotten, and I know that like because of what I've done in high school, I know that what they're doing right now in terms of fitness, like Cole Hawker and Yard, like that 1500 final was fast. I mean, obviously, I couldn't run anywhere near that right now. So I know that what I've been doing, they've been working even harder for another 5 years after me. So like, I just want to make sure that whatever they did, I'm working even harder. By the time I'm their age, I can be as good or better than them.
Yeah. I thought it was actually really interesting the 1500 final. Like mostly for the because of the three that got in because it's Cole, it's Yard and it's Hobbs and they all three are training so differently. Like Hobbs is training with like a ton of doubles but no long run. Like
Yeah.
I think he's got like literally like he said I think he said his longest runs are like maybe 7 or 8 miles.
Yeah, I saw that interview too. It
Yeah.
might have been at Melrose. Was it? It might. I don't know. I think it was at the Armory, wherever it was. But
I
yeah,
think it,
I heard that interview.
yeah, I think
I think those are my three that I predicted to go through. But I actually thought that Cole would get third. I thought Hobbs would get second and Yared would win. But yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise. But I'm happy Cole won. I've been following like the Team Sova guys on
oh yeah,
TikTok and stuff.
they're getting big,
Yeah,
man. They're winning big, clearly.
yeah, some cool stuff. That was a pretty exciting final too. That was fast.
It was. And yeah, but like in general, like just those three have such like Yared trains pretty high mileage. Cole trains like somewhat high mileage, but he's a lot more like laid back about his training, and like takes a much more like laid back approach with Sova. And I think that's like I think all their training is just like that. It's good to see that like not it's not just one facet of training that's like going to make everybody better. Like people can argue like of course threshold is going to make you better. Of course like doing speed work is going to make you better. Like for Cole at like making those huge moves with 200 to go. But like in the end, like if you really want to make it to the top, like you just got to find what works for you and exploit it and do it.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I think that a lot of the reason why a lot of guys don't get fast in high school is because they're doing what worked for their coach when he was in high school. Like I think I got really lucky with my coach and the way that he trained me and some of my teammates just like really connected with us and that's kind of like part of why I also committed to UF was because I think the coach there, Coach Palmer, has a lot of similar ideologies with his training, and I think I pretty much found the winning formula for me in that junior year when I was training over the summer, and then I just stuck with it for senior year, and I made really fast progression. So I think a lot of guys that have been like not really getting faster for multiple seasons that are struggling with PRing. I think it might be, time to switch up the training a little bit and really figure out like what your body responds to. And I know that like the tempo work that I've done, what like my staple workout that I do with my coach is a 6 by mile, 60-second rest, just tempo. And that like every single time I do that workout, that like it feels easier the next week. And then I go and race and I PR, and it feels good because I know exactly what's been working.
there you go. The simple stuff works. Last question. So the power of teammates is a real thing. The power of just like being on a team and like being with guys that like you can train with and like go through tough training with and work hard in races with. Um, Obviously you found that in your teammates over at Buchholz, as well as one that you're actually going to be teammates with next year at UF, Evan Fleming. How has having teammates and like being on a team and like having that connection, how does it make you better in training and in races?
Yeah, I mean our top five on our team are basically best friends, like outside of running too. Like we all just hang out at each other's houses and stuff and go out to eat. And I think it's important to be really close with your teammates because that same energy carries over to the practice. And a big part of like being close to your teammates is like the accountability factor because if like you should know exactly what your teammates are doing and you should know when they're slacking and you should know when they're doing better than you are doing in terms of like staying on top of things. And I think that's like a huge part of all of our progressions because the whole like our whole top fives progressions have been really insane for cross country and even track. But like we had three guys, I think all of us actually, besides me, hadn't even broken 18 until like the past like 2 years, like until we were seniors and juniors. And like we all and then Evan 1520s, Gino 1520s, Sam is running sub 16, and then Callum went from like high 18s to like 16 lows in one season. And it's pretty much just because everyone's staying on each other's butts about doing the right things and eating right and recovering and all of that. And and then when you take that up to big events like Nike, which we actually won the whole meet in Nike Indoor, because we were in the DMR on the 4 by mile and all that, and we're all like hyped to run for each other and not just ourselves. So you wanna have close relationships with your teammates for sure.
Awesome.
Thank
All right.
you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
we really appreciate it. It's awesome to have a runner on here and not
Football player,
a football,
baseball
yeah,
player.
something to do with like one of the three major sports. So awesome to have you on, and it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the past 45 minutes or so. And yeah, so thank everybody for watching.
And any of his socials will be linked somewhere above here at the end of the video. So well, yeah.
Have a great day, everybody.
Have a good day.
Yeah, thanks for having me.